Hello everyone! This is our fifth and final lesson in our suspense story writing based on the short film Ruin this week. Today we're concentrating our writing efforts on the final part of the story, where, if you remember, there's an epic battle and an unclear ending. There's still so many questions when the film ends. What happens next? We're going to leave our writing with this feeling that the struggle must go on between man and machines. So far we've worked really hard on our sentence structures and techniques to create tension this week, and today we're going to focus more on another brilliant device that writers use to drive their points home, and in this case, let us see the struggle our character is facing, and that is repetition for effect. Repetition lets our reader know that our words are important enough for them to pay close attention to and can give emphasis to what we're saying. Normally we don't want to repeat the same word choice as it could get boring, but repetition for effect is when you do it deliberately, and it can really work wonders when you use it sparingly. So let's look at an example. This is one that I know that you're really familiar with. It's Anthony Horowitz. He really is the master of creating suspense on top of using the repetition for effect. Just look at how many of the other techniques we've looked at this week he employs when he writes. I've done a bit of a dad waivers checklist down the side. I wonder if you can spot them. This section is taken from Stormbreaker because I know that you're really familiar with this. So let's just have a read through and see how Anthony Horowitz uses repetition for effect as well as these range of sentence openers. And then something hit the BMW with such force that Alex cried out. His whole body caught in a massive shock wave that tore him away from the steering wheel and threw him helplessly into the back. At the same time, the roof buckled and 3 huge metal fingers tore through the skin of the car like a fork through an eggshell, trailing dust and sunlight. What can you spot so far? Can you spot an estimation of time? A simile? Adverbs and verb starters? Description? Trailing dust and sunlight? One of the fingers grazed the side of his head. Any closer and it would have cracked his skull. Alex yelled as blood trickled over his eye. He tried to move, then jerked back a second time as the car was yanked off the ground and tilted high in the air. He couldn't see. He couldn't move. But his stomach lurched as the car swung in an arc, the metal grinding and the lights spinning. It had been picked up by the crane. It was going to be put inside the crusher, with him inside. See that short sentence at the end? We worked on those yesterday. But let's focus on this repetition for effect that I've circled here. This repetition emphasises just how difficult a situation Alex is in. It lets us know that this is seriously dangerous. He couldn't see. He couldn't move. This is how Anthony Horowitz writes for suspense, and it's really similar to the effect that we're trying to create. Our next section for our writing is the third from the box on your planning, and for me this was the explosion and the tunnel scene where our character tries and fails twice to detonate his bombs to destroy the torpedoes sent by the main aircraft, before he or she hatches a clever plan to escape them using the tunnel. So I've got my planning here ready, get yours in front of you too. Let's watch those 2 failed attempts closely by re-watching the film. I'm going to try to create some repetition for effect using 2 sentences to show how desperate this situation is of trying and trying twice and not managing to get it right. Let's watch that clip. And as we watch, try to note down, try to create your own 2 sentences that use repetition for effect to show how desperate this situation is. example of repetition for effect did you come up with to add to the description of our character in this scene? I'm going to share with you a few examples that I've designed. I really wanted to try and get that feeling of hopelessness of my character at this point in action so that they could feel the peril, my reader could feel the peril of doing this twice and not managing it. So here's my first. Twice I sent my missiles backwards to do their damage. Twice they failed me. The repetition in the beginning here, twice, twice. I cling on tight to the handlebars. I cling on tight for my life. Give up now and face it. Give up now and die. Maybe this one really hammers home to the reader just how desperate my character is for survival. Take a moment or two now to create your own repetition for effect example to add to your plan. And we'll watch onwards to the moment our character detonates the bomb on the tunnel. That really is just in the nick of time. Now, let's have a look at some of the examples that we could have for this. Share your example. Which part does it relate to? Perhaps it could be speeding through the air, speeding towards me. It's now or never. It's now or the demonic drone wins. One step closer. One step that's still so far. Decide upon your example of repetition for effect now and take a moment to do that. And when you have, it's time to add it onto your plan. So I'm going to show you how I've done that now. I'm just looking at this third section then of my planning, so I've got it back here in front of me. This is the explosives and the tunnel section. I'm adding my chosen example. So I could choose, I think I might add, twice I send my missiles backwards to do their damage. Twice they fail me. It's now or never. It's now or the demonic drone wins. Once you've added your examples to your planning, it's time to think about writing this whole section. So, put a support sheet together for you that's on the drive, again in the Dad Wavers style, lots and lots of openers here that you could use, and some extra ideas. You can magpie from here or rework any of them into your own writing. It's up to you, but that vocab sheet is there. So next, I'm going to show you how I've written up my action for this part of the story, using repetition for effect. So before you go ahead, have a look. Again, here's my Dad Wavers checklist and my planning, which I've highlighted for you, and I've just put in a circle my examples of repetition for effect so you can see how I'm using those. So hopefully this will really get you in the mood before you start your writing. So here we go. Without warning. Using an estimation of time to begin today. Without warning, a telltale metallic clink clink echoes out above the roar of my engine, signalling the release of two deadly weapons. Lots and lots of description in here in action. Heat-seeking missiles, unrelenting and unforgiving. There's nothing else for it now. No other way than to do battle with this sky beast. Peering over my shoulder, I check the range. They're coming for me. Getting closer by the second. It's time to answer this war cry and fight fire with fire. I know I've got to be accurate. 3 devices is all I have and time's running out. Screeching wildly now, almost out of control, I let them fly. You see how I've used some verb openers here. Praying to myself that they will reach their target. Twice I send my missiles backwards to do their damage. Twice they fail me. That's my repetition for effect there. In a moment of clarity, an idea suddenly focuses my mind. The tunnel. And as always, in true Miss Edelson style, I notice my spelling mistakes. In a moment of clarity, an idea suddenly focuses my mind. This was how I was bringing it into that part where I've spotted the sign. The tunnel. Roaring onwards into the depths of the dark, winding underpass, I hold my breath and click the final bomb into action. Hiss! It's now or never, I shout. It's now or the demonic drone wins. In an instant I attach the cartridge to the roof just in time and let it do its worst. The explosion rips through the tunnel mouth like a fiery dragon's roar. Pulling up to a halt, I allow myself one brief look backwards. But I know this isn't over yet. I wanted to leave this paragraph with that cliffhanger that something else is yet to come. And I've highlighted some of the features for you to spot as I've gone through, not all of them. I'm sure you'll notice where I'm doing my best to try and get those short, snappy sentences in that we worked on before, my repetition for effect, lots and lots of verb and adverb starters, and I've tried to get some action in here. I've used a couple of examples of onomatopoeia, in fact, clink, clink, hiss, and I've got some dialogue in here as well, because I want my character to really be shouting out to the skies, it's now or never, build up that drama. If you want to pause the video at this point and just write that section, the explosives and the tunnel, then you can do that. And then when you're ready, we'll keep going and we'll have a look at that final paragraph, the battle and the resolution. Now you're ready to start thinking about the final scene. This has got to be super dramatic. We've got to get the action in here and use all of our techniques that we've learnt this week to really create that suspense. We want to leave our reader with that feeling. Is it really over? What do you think happens next? Where will they go? Is our character still in danger? And why is this device so important to them? We want to leave a sort of ambiguous ending. So we're going to watch on now and then we'll be ready to write. Right, we're ready to go. Now, remember, you can use the vocab support sheet that's on the Google Drive, again, to help you. I'm going back to my plan to check my ideas, and this is my final paragraph. Note down on your planning any additional ideas that you'd like to include in yours as we look at my model. Something might come to mind that you just want to magpie as we go. So let's have a look. We're going to leave our reader with the feeling that this is not over, and the struggle between man and machines will continue in this dystopian world. Try to give some idea of your character's motivation. What was this all for? What do they feel might happen to them next? You've got your dad waivers checklist there to keep helping you, and I've highlighted some of it to show you again how I've put mine together, and I've got my planning. Well, when we've done all of this, we're going to put every bit of writing we've done this week together, from our setting, our prelude to the flashback, and then all of the 4 paragraphs that we've written over the last couple of days. So we should have one fantastic piece of suspense writing that takes us right from the beginning of the film Ruin, with the flashback in there, right the way through to this point. So let's go. I know there's no time to waste. My bike roars back into life. She's ready. I'm ready. That's my repetition for effect there. Overhead, the sky darkens as the demon arrives. They'll never let me get away. It's a fight to the death. Come on! I spit through gritted teeth. Enormous earth-shattering bullets begin firing at me. I ride. They're close. Too close. But I ride. I ride because their lives depend upon it. My stare is fixed and resolute. Every ounce of me feels alive, electrified. Bang, 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 bang. They're so close. I feel the air near my cheek move. So close. Is this how it ends? This is it. I reach for my sword. Electricity crackles, buzzes, and runs through it. We face off. Goodbye, old girl. I jump. My bike hurtles towards the ground, landing full force on the deck of the giant craft. I raise my sword and strike. It shudders and shakes, crackling and jolting as shock waves overload its system. Fizz, hiss. Electrocuted. Tumbling uncontrollably to the ground, we land in a pile. I release the blade from its juddering metal body. My heart thuds audibly in my chest and my hands tremble around the hilt of the sword. Maybe one day my luck will run out, but not today. Today I will continue my quest. I will find them. Now I've left my paragraph with this idea that my character is carrying on. He's got a purpose and he must continue on his journey until he's found his family. I wonder what you'll leave yours on. What sort of cliffhanger, what kind of idea of your character's motivation, so that we feel that this story isn't really ended. An ellipsis might be a great way to lead out. And I'm sure that you've spotted, as well as I've read, the features that I've used here to create the suspense and keep it exciting. I haven't highlighted all of them as I've read, but I'm sure you can spot the short sentences, the dialogue, the action, the onomatopoeia here, the fizz, hiss, and all of that description. Electrocuted. My heart thuds audibly in my chest. I tremble around the hilt of the sword, really getting the senses working so that my reader knows what it must have felt like to be in this position. You're going to do the same in your writing today. So that's it from me now. It's over to you. Write your last 2 paragraphs for today, and once you've written them, make sure that you spend lots and lots of time going back. Check, edit. Nobody just writes the first time and doesn't go back and make any edits. Try reading it to another person. Can they suggest where you might need to make some edits, and make sure you're creating the suspense that we've been aiming for this week. I've got the checklist down the side, and another for today. I want you to make sure you've got those short snappy sentences in that we worked on yesterday, some examples of repetition for effect, and go through your punctuation checklist. Can we really see all of that higher level punctuation in your writing? Quite often when you read it back, I always do, you'll spot where you need to add your commas in that you've missed, and so on. When you have it, put it all together then, from the very first paragraph of the setting, the prelude into the flashback, and then our 4 action paragraphs which leave us on this fantastic cliffhanger. Read it all back through to check that you have really created that suspense that we've been aiming for. Well done for all of your efforts this week, Year 6. We've seen some stunning writing from you. Now, If you're into short animated films like I am and you've liked this one, you might be interested to check out more by the same creator. My favourite is called Envoy, and you can search it up on YouTube. This short film, Ruin, 8 minutes long, is by a man called Wes Ball, and Envoy is another one of his short films. If you ever need some inspiration, you really like writing sci-fi, that would give you some great food for thought. And some fantastic ways to lead into more science fiction. So good luck with your story endings, Year 6. I'll speak to you all soon.